everyone. Thank you, Steph. This session is such an important reminder, and such a good way to end this evening. A reminder that in the face of ovarian cancer, there can be purpose, there can be hope, and there can be resilience, and something I've seen and heard time and time again from this incredible community. So I'm very grateful to our panelists for joining us and sharing your stories and experiences with us today. So how about we'll start by having each of you introduce yourselves. I'll start with Liz. If you can share uh, your camera and join us. There she is.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're underway here. John's like, is it finally started? Yeah. Okay. Hi everybody. I'm Liz Reichert and I'm based in Toronto. I was diagnosed in 2019 with high-grade serous stage 3B. And it all began because my husband and I were taking a trip to France. And when I arrived, I was on a bus coming from the airport, and oh my God, it was like I was 10 years postmenopausal, but it was like I was getting a period, that awful feeling that we all get, unprepared. And in the end, it ended up being cancer. So, but it was a quick journey for me to get to that diagnosis, unlike some of the other stories I've heard tonight. And I think we really have a lot of work to do in that area. So it was a chance. I ended up being able to stay on my trip, and then carry on with my care when I got home. And that was the beginning of me really leaping and staying in touch with what mattered to me in my life, and to keep trying to stay in my normal zone. So I'll pass it along to the next person, and we'll get into this conversation. Can't wait.
What an experience that must have been.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Tiffany. Tiffany, how about you take a few minutes, introduce yourself and a little
Hi,
bit about your story?
everybody. Yeah, my name's Tiffany Morin. I'm based out of Calgary or Mohkinstsis. I am a Métis and Cree woman and live in Treaty 7, but my family's from Treaty 6 territory. I was diagnosed with granulosa cell tumor, a rare subtype of ovarian cancer, when I was 38 years old. So that was about 7 years ago, so you can do the math. And I recurred after about 3 years. I was diagnosed at stage 1, and then came back a few years later. And so I've been through like 4 surgeries, chemotherapy, hormone treatments, all the fun things. Yeah. Anyway, I'm here to learn and to share. I've loved the last 2 days so far. And yeah, looking forward to our conversation tonight.
We all are. And last but not least, Nancy, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hi, thanks. Nice to see Liz and Tiffany here as well tonight. Like Liz, I was traveling. I was on a walking trip actually in the Netherlands, and it was almost time to come home. And I felt something strange in my pelvis, just a little bit of a firmness, and I happened to be going in for a follow-up ultrasound for a kidney stone that I had a few days after I got back into Canada. And well, I didn't hear about the kidney stone again because I had an orange size mass on my ovary. So I was completely blindsided and shocked. I had no cancer in my family. I had no risk factors other than I was 67 years old. So I went through the conventional therapy of intravenous and intraperitoneal chemotherapy, full surgery, and came out of that and was supposed to be cured. So I went on with my life, and 4.5 years later, I had a recurrence, and this was in a aortic uh, lymph node, pardon me, under uh, my left breast. Anyway, it was pretty shocking. I really thought that I was over with it. And so I went through chemotherapy again, different drugs, but the same deal for 5 rounds. And then I came away from that thinking, okay, now I go back and live my life. Now I'd lived some of my very best years of my life during those 4.5. So I had lots of reason to stay here. I have great grandchildren. I have a wonderful partner. We had a good, work that I loved, all of that. And I just had no idea what to do differently because I thought I did everything right. So I decided that I would engaged with some complementary therapies as well, just throwing everything at it that I could. And so I was so thrilled to find Ovarian Cancer Canada because, of course, when I went through it, like Liz in 2019, I knew no one. I knew no one who'd had ovarian cancer, and I had no idea where to look for any information. So I'm so grateful for what I've learned since and happy to be here as part of this panel.
Thank you. I'm sure there's many women listening to all three of you and really already relating with your experiences. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight, a lot of different themes, but why don't we start with your diagnosis may have been a turning point, but it's not the whole story. So since then, how have your priorities shifted and what really gives you meaning today? And maybe Tiffany will kick it off with you.
Yeah, you bet. I will start by saying, and probably lots of you on the call have the same experience, is that, oh my gosh, like the emotions with this get like real. Um, and it's not, we're talking about hope today, so do not feel that I'm not hopeful because I very much am. I'm just, I leak all the time. And
Leak away.
the elders,
Yeah.
the elders that I work with, they've worked really hard with me for me not to apologize for them, and also to think of them in my own way as offerings to Creator. So I am sharing my offerings with all of you this evening. So on this topic, or on this question that Tanya posed, when I was diagnosed, I honestly thought I was one and done, right? Kind of what a lot of us probably think. And it was stage 1. I was like, okay, it was this rare type that didn't have as high of a recurrence, and my team gave me no reason to think anything else other than one and done. So I actually only was seeing an oncologist for maybe 6 months initially, and I was discharged. And so I went on and lived my life, and really didn't think anything else of it. And it was somewhat ironic that I went to grad school and I was doing research with peer support for young adults with another disease, and then I had this recurrence. And knowing the importance, and actually knowing the research behind peer support and the value that it brings to living with a chronic disease or in a rare disease, was of course fresh in my mind from working on this research. So I knew when I had this recurrence and that I was going to have to go through a lot of like harder stuff, that I needed to connect. I needed to connect with other people that knew what I was going through.
Yeah.
And this is where I am so, so grateful for OCC, because I hadn't connected before. And so when I was in chemotherapy, I was on those TLTs every month with the other young people with ovarian cancer. I was connecting with my local Wellsprings groups as well. But that going through the shock of the recurrence and having to go through all of those treatments without that support, I can't even imagine what that would have been like. So I think that my priorities definitely shifted, that I knew that I had to connect with others. I have an incredible support system, like my partner, my family, my friends, my community. But this new community of people that understood what I was experiencing was like, I can see in the comments, it was like a big hug, right? That I was being held by new people and by a new community to help me navigate this. And again, so grateful for that. And continue to be involved in those TLTs, and now as with the PPIR group, and planning the Lady Ball in Calgary, and going to the walk every year and raising money, right? This is such a huge part of my life now that wasn't a part of my life like 4 years ago. And cancer sucks, let's be real, but the people I've met on this journey have been absolutely incredible. And you meet the best people in the worst times. And that's, life is interesting that way. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, such a special community, and I hope you're feeling the love. I can see all the messages popping up. I think you're getting so many virtual hugs right now, and that goes to all of you. Liz, how about you? How have your priorities shifted, or what gives you meaning today since your diagnosis? Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Cannot get that right. Just want to echo what Tiffany just said, and also just to say, when we go through this, and it strikes you so intensely, and I think maybe for me, the intensity of that. I mean, I was somebody who's a big problem solver and a fixer type person, and yet here I stood, like, not knowing, should I go to this appointment or that appointment? It was like deer in the headlights, stuck, like I didn't know what to do, and really needed to find a way to kind of move forward in that. And knowing from I stepped into my role, or like understanding my work as an advocate and bringing that into my experience as a patient. It was because I was helping somebody else for a number of years through their cancer journey as their advocate. And even with the exact same gynecological oncologist who became my gynecological oncologist, and moving from that being on the side to being in the chair, I learned that kind of intensity of threat to the shift in the way your life is going to unfold in the next little while, at least, is a moment that makes you start to think about, and I call this my silver lining, really. That moment where you realize you're now on the other side of it, however that whatever's going to unfold in that way, but there's still a lot of life to live, and there are those around you who can help you to do that, and there are others who might not be making the quality of your life that much better. So I've learned to kind of prune the activities and the things and the people that may not be as generative in the way that all of us together can be a much stronger community. And that was a big lesson for me. It really helped me to step forward into the living part, moving forward. And I feel very lucky at this point to still be now 6 years NED. But I know that the threat for recurrence is still out there. And I've heard stories of lots of people much further along than I, where the recurrence has now happened. And so I expect at some point that may happen. And so that's a big part for me of recognizing the importance of just embracing the life that's around you and finding ways to do that. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get into the conversation. But so appreciate what you had to say there, Tiffany.
And Nancy, I can see you nodding along as well too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, yes. I want to underline something that you said, Tiffany, or what you alluded to, is that feeling of when you come out of the treatment, suddenly you're untethered. You're no longer in the system. And I know that for me, I felt, almost like I wanted to go back and sit on the floor at the cancer center, just to know that the care was around me, that people that knew what was going on for me were there. And of course, that wasn't what was going to happen, and it was right in COVID, so we were walking around with masks anyway. But I think that's really common. With other women that I've spoken to, and the peer-to-peer support, that feeling of being left out on your own, kind of floundering, and I was a counselor, so I thought I should know how to look after myself during this, but I didn't. It was me. I had to go to see someone, and I think I want to just really highlight the value of speaking out about what's going on to a counselor. I know there's lots offered through Wellspring and Inspire Health and Ovarian Cancer Canada know about these people, because it was so valuable to have someone say, yeah, I really hear you, and you're not crazy. And it's understandable that you feel a bit lost now. And you don't know what to do differently. You don't know how to change. And so I didn't know any of those things either. I knew I had to leave my work when I had the recurrence, because I thought that was the one thing that I had continued, and it was quite stressful during that time. And I traveled a lot. So I thought, okay, I've got to hone in on that one. So I stopped that which had its own set of emotional side effects because I loved this work and I'd done it for 10 years and it was like, now what? But it was important to do because I felt it wasn't contributing to my well-being and my increased health. And so I did that and started focusing more on working with people that had cancer. Funny enough, it just sort of happened that the peer-to-peer counseling happened and other clients came out that were wanting to do that work. Now, it's not that I want to do a lot of it, it's just it happened because I knew something I didn't know before. So it was a club, I've said this many times, a club that I did not want to join. When I stood up and talked about my cancer, I would always make it sound like I was just passing through because I was only 2B, and I was like, I'm just on my way through. It's gonna be over. And then I realized that it actually is a really wonderful club of people, of warrior women who are strong, who have faced adversity in a way that I don't think you can unless you have something that threatens your life. So I agree with both of you. I think being close to others and letting go of what the relationships that don't serve us, serve me. I had to do that too, and I just don't pause. I hug my grandkids every time I can possibly see them. Yeah.
Love it.
Let's talk about hope for a minute. That's come up that's definitely a theme, and that can mean a lot of different things to different people. So it can be quiet or steady, it can be loud or powerful, but it's something that I think we all need to actively nurture, and particularly in the experiences that you're all having. What keeps you going every day? Why don't we start with Liz?
Remembered, got it this time. So I think it took me some time, as I came out of my treatment and just as I was, at that stage where my hair was long enough to be really out there and doing things and feeling confident about the way I was looking, COVID descended. And so it was like a turning back in again. And so I turned to some things that I'd always been curious about, and I also reached out through Wellspring for a number of things, and one of the things was learning to do watercolor painting in nature. I love the natural environment. I've done a lot of work in that area, and that was one of the things that just brought me to life. And because it was COVID, and there wasn't like it was during that initial real big shutdown, and you couldn't get materials and things. I went scurrying around in the house. I was in the space where my mom used to live, and she was a bit of an artist, a very good one. And I found her watercolor set. And when I opened it, it was just as she had left it, like a gift, like, here, I'm with you. And when I took water to those paints and started to paint, it was like I was channeling her. And there was like an infusion of real life and energy and beauty that got created as a result of doing that and developing a new skill, which I've gone on and done lots more with, which has been really exciting and kind of a surprise, actually. I had no idea I could do it. And so that was the beginning and inkling of what led me to a number of other things where I started to take some more risks like that and trying different things, and recognizing that there was opportunity out there, and it was really, really encouraging. So that was, I mean, that and gardening, and I work out a lot and I cycle a lot, and like there's a lot of elements that have helped me keep my life really anchored and connected. But that was a big one. That was a real turning point for me.
Amazing. Beautiful. Your story of finding your mom's watercolor is making me start leaking. My goodness,
Yeah.
what an experience. Nancy, how about you? What keeps you going every day?
No, I'm going to bring my mother into this too,
Okay.
because I lost my mother when I was first in recovery.
Oh,
It was a slow process, and then she went, and she had a lot of her dementia had been quite pronounced by the time she finally went. So some of the ways that we related were things that I knew that she knew a lot about, and she could talk easily. And that one of the things was sewing. So I decided to start sewing, and I hadn't sewn since I was 25, and I threw a piece of fabric across the room and said, I'm never doing this again. I hate sewing. But I decided, no, I can do this. It's quiet, it's meditative, it's something that I can feel my mother in, and so I could ask her questions about fitting and all kinds of things, and it was a very important time for us to be close. And then when she passed, I was really grateful that I had something that I could do like that. Um, One of the things that kept me feeling peace and hopefulness was always asking myself, and I still do this now, so talking about it, is how am I feeling in this moment? You know, we hear all this advice about staying present and in the present moment, everything. Well, a lot of times we don't really know what that means, and how the heck do we do it anyway? And so for me, it's been like, how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling pretty well right now. How am I feeling now? And even in the darkest moments, I'd have to ask myself, how am I feeling? I think, well, actually, my body feels okay right now. And that helped me not catastrophize and not get out too far. And I still have this too, because it's likely that I have a recurrence now. I just found out this week. So I'm right back in the seat where I have to think, okay, how am I feeling now? And where am I going to be? Rather than going into, oh my God. So those are the things that have helped me using my hands and asking that question.
Nancy. What about you, Tiffany?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll just keep like building on what Liz and Nancy have talked about. And for me, touching a little bit on like connection to culture has been really important. And I regularly meet with elders. I go to the sweat lodge for ceremony. I have a smudging practice that I do. I even went to a drum making workshop this past weekend for like 3 days and made a new drum, which was a beautiful
Wow.
experience. Um, and so my background, I'm a recreation therapist, and so I really understand the value of recreation and leisure and how that impacts our health, our wellness. Experiencing things like this, right? And I sometimes am get too excited about all the things that I want to do and to keep me strong. And I have a hard time saying no to things and I want to do all the things. So I do keep a pretty busy schedule. But I again love the art that's been talked about and that creative expression. I too I think I did an art journaling class with Wellspring when I was in treatment and loved that. If anyone's ever read the book Between Two Kingdoms, I
Uh-huh.
I did my own 100-day creative journey and had a little book and
Nice.
did something for 100 days a couple of years ago. I've dabbled in gratitude journaling. I love going to the mountains, like living in Alberta and going out and going hiking or kayaking and camping. I did some solo camping this year, which was great. And I've had to adapt, absolutely. Like I used to go for multi-day solo backcountry hiking trips. I'm not doing that right now. Maybe again sometime, but I had to adapt a little bit for sure. But yeah, sometimes I get excited by a lot of things and that keeps me going. Traveling, and still being able to do all that, even though I currently still have active tumors in my abdomen, right? And I'm on some crappy medications as well. But, I just keep doing those things that I love and being with the people that I love.
See you light up as you talk about it, Tiffany. I think yeah, that's
Better
amazing.
cry again.
I mean, I just want to say something about what Tiffany was saying. Having a goal, like knowing you're going to be on a trip or going on a hiking, excursion, I think that's also helped me. Having something that's not too far out, not years and years, but a few months away, to look forward to. That really has helped me and still does. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, sort of even what you were saying too, Liz, like with the physical aspect of things, like trying to fight the fatigue and your strength and everything, having those goals helps you prepare for that too, right? I wore my earrings today that I got in Colombia a couple of years ago, where a friend and I, it was a big trip, like heading out into that like Amazon jungle, and I was like, can I do this? And I did it and it was hard. And I don't think I'll go back there because it was so hot and dealing with the hot flashes and the menopause in the Amazon was a little tough. But I prepared myself to go do that trip and knew it would be challenging, but I did it and it was amazing. Right. And I like that, Nancy, like to have those things to look forward to and to plan for really make a difference.
Amazing. So we're going to switch to kind of into the next theme, which is about being the driver of your care. So one thing we hear about so often is how important it is to feel heard in your care. And unfortunately, we hear too many stories of women not feeling heard in their care. So can we talk about what it looks like to be your own advocate and how that's made a difference for each of you? Maybe we'll start with you this time, Tiffany.
So when you have a rare subtype, a lot of the
Mm.
people that you work with don't really know what to do. I shouldn't say that. My team's great, but I do a lot of my own like research. I'm reading journal articles. I'm going into my appointments well prepared, going in with new ideas for treatment options. So I've definitely had to be the driver of my own care. I work as well with alternative therapies and trying all of these things. I think my doctor laughs sometimes when I come into appointments with my iPad and graphs of my blood work, with my surgery report, with this report, and like map everything out and go in there, feeling, and that gives me a sense of like comfort as well, to know that I'm doing my part and I know what's going on. Um, and I am also part of a Facebook group with people that have the same rare subtype as I do. And that group has been incredibly powerful, and giving me the tools that I need to advocate for myself. In fact, I was just on the phone with a doctor in California this week to look at some second opinions or some consults, because I'm kind of maxed out my options here that I've been given. So I'm connected with that doctor through this Facebook group. They like shared their phone number. And I was like, are you sure this doctor wants? Anyway, they were fine with it. And right. So I'm taking advantage of those opportunities to connect with others, to learn from them. And I'm always learning more. And I think that's important. And especially we've heard a lot of presentations about research and what's going on. And I feel like there's this almost this critical mass happening right at the moment with what's happening in research. And though we haven't seen change in a long time, it's going to come real quick. And that gets me excited as well.
Thanks. Liz, how do you feel about that?
I totally agree with you, Tiffany, in terms of how we find a way to advocate. And I think there, at the beginning of my care, I felt that like deer in the headlights moment, and I'm sure I can identify with a lot of other women where it's like, wow, I don't think I could really take on all of that. I am the research reading type. I learned to just skip the first page so I didn't have to keep reading how difficult and bad this disease is. I just don't read the first page. I just go to the second page and start reading what I need to know. But I think as somebody who had been an advocate for somebody else, the thing I took away from that was not how to be an advocate for myself, but to recognize that by sitting down and preparing for the meeting with somebody else, thinking about what are my questions, how am I thinking about this? I kept a very good detailed journal of just my symptoms and all the things, so I didn't have to remember it because brain fog, blah blah. I would just let that go. I'd write it down. I didn't have to think about it anymore. So then when I would go and be preparing for my meeting with the doctor, I was able to refer to all of those things, be able to be very clear about what my symptoms were or were not, and what was working, what was not working for me. I had really, really bad neuropathy and the attacking on the legs, and it was pretty severe at times. And I needed to find a way to deal with that, and through medication and other things. And it really helped having all the details of that and having that book nearby, and being able to refer to it. And I found it recently, and it was very interesting to reread through it and see where there was a moment after my first chemo where I was like, this is it. I can't do this. Like, I'm done. I'm like, I can't, I'm walking away. I can't do this. And of course, everyone rallied around me, and this amazing network of friends that would like come and pick me up off the couch and walk me out as a beached whale walking around trying to work on
Oh,
all the chemo. Like, it was amazing how supportive people were and how important all of those connections were. And it was through, for me, when you don't know what to do, it's hard to concentrate. You're not going to find the answers by looking at the parts. You're only going to be able to figure things out in relationship. And so, how you build those relationships, how you maintain them, how you lean on them. I was always the person giving. So, learning to step back and let people give back to me, that took some work for me. I didn't feel as comfortable with it at the beginning, but now, of course, I am. And I'm in another situation right now. I have a sister who's not doing well, and finding ways to deal with some of those things and then keep some time for myself, knowing that it's important to do that and think about it and prepare so that I can go back and be there for her again. So these are, like these are the strategies that I learned through doing in that work.
mm, mm.
Shared in some of our earlier conversations about some of what you had to do to advocate for yourself. Can you share a bit of perspective about what that was like for you?
That me? Sorry. Okay. I didn't hear you say my name. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, there were hiccups on my journey, like everyone's, I think, at different times where um, you know, being 67, I'm 73 almost now. We weren't really raised to question the medical system very much. And even though I was also very active in the women's movement and have been considered myself a feminist, when push comes to shove, it was scary for me to confront somebody who I felt held my care in their hands. So, but I did have to, I had to switch oncologists. I have a wonderful team now, but I did make that choice. I spoke up. I got a second opinion. I mean, it's scary. I was so full of emotion and turmoil with going through knowing I was going to have chemo starting. It was a mess. I was a mess, but I knew I had to do it anyway. So having a supportive partner made a huge difference. He took the iPad, he wrote the notes down so we knew what to ask, with questions and so on. But um, the system is designed to support us as patients, and we often forget that we're not supporting the system. And so I had to really pretend I was you, Liz. I was in with someone else and advocating for them when I was advocating for myself. So I learned a lot about how to do that. And I saw a lot of it in action and with the women that I spoke with and so on. So yeah, it's a really important part. Getting a second opinion, knowing that there's other ways to look at every question. And there's a lot of things they don't talk about. Like if you don't talk about your neuropathy, no one's asking you if you have it. So how do you know if that's real or normal or what it is? So it's very important to speak up, like every other place in our lives.
Thanks for that, Nancy. I see some people have questions for some of you, and I just want to share with everyone there will be a Q&A at the end. We're getting close. There's one more theme we want to talk about, but I know that Steph will jump on in a little while and kind of help navigate and direct some of the questions that have been coming up to each of you. So I think we've heard this throughout various parts of this conversation tonight, talking about the importance of community and also in giving back. And I'm so grateful to all of you for sitting here and giving back and sharing this experience. And I always treasure the opportunities to engage with our community and learn from all of you. One of the most beautiful parts of this community, and I think Tiffany, you shared it loud and clear earlier, is how people support one another. Giving back can be healing in itself. So, how is connection, either with OCC or your peers, your family, whatever that may be? How has that shaped your journey? We'll start with you, Liz, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So I had this friend, you know, um, when I told her that I had cancer, she's like, but you're the one who helps everybody else. What do you mean you have cancer? So I'm like, well, now you're going to be the one. And she stepped right up and she organized this great network of people. Because after my main chemo day, I had to have a day of IV fluids. And that meant I was hooked up and kind of stuck there. And I needed my husband to be able to get out and not feel quite so stuck all the time. And so people were like brought in, and they came, they walked me, they made sandwiches for me, they brought things to read. Or read to me. It was really very, so it was a really important part of my care. And over time, those connections, there were people stepped up, some who I was really surprised, from a kind of larger circle of friends, and it gave me intimate moments of being able to really have a more deeper connection, to be vulnerable with people I might otherwise have been as vulnerable with. And it's extended and deepened my connections with those people over time as well. And now going forward, as you kind of move forward, as you embrace things, I had one person who was ahead of me in her journey, and I went to high school with her, and she helped me. And then I had went through my, and then another person came into my life who also was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and then I was helping her. And so we had also this, just by random chance, those kinds of connections too. And that was before I got involved with Ovarian Cancer Canada, and was when I hit my 5-year mark that I felt comfortable enough to kind of come out more out of my shell that way, and get more involved in Ovarian Cancer Canada. I guess I had the richness of being in a big city and a lot of local connections. I know a lot of rural women are very isolated. Ovarian Cancer Canada has been so important, and also for others in the cities and other places. Like, it's being in the TLTs now and getting connected with all of you. I just feel like I have so much more to learn about what I can do and how I can get more involved with Ovarian Cancer Canada. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. I am a donor. I will definitely always be a donor.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate all of that. Thank you, Liz. How about you, Nancy?
Well, I can say a lot of the same things as Liz. My circle of friends, my book club, I mean, they were incredible. They just stepped forward, and they were the ones taking me to the sessions. My sister-in-law took me to all of my chemo just about. They brought food, and I was always the one to organize the meal trains. Now suddenly there's food coming to our door. It was really lovely. Um, but it was really getting involved with Inspire Health in British Columbia, which is like the wellspring of Ontario, that brought me, to meet other cancer patients. And then when I found out about OCC and I went on the first walk, I thought, oh my gosh, there's all these people that know about, they're all people like me. They all know what this is about. I couldn't believe it. And so then I went again, and I loved it. So I am a donor and will be more so. And I love the peer to peer. Shout out to all the women that I've engaged with through that, because they have taught me so much, and helped me in my journey so much, as well as me doing something with them. Um, yeah, it's a community. I can't see enough about the importance of community and relationship through this. So I'm really grateful for OCC, and I plan to be more involved, which is giving me a lot of joy at the moment. Um, yeah, it's great. Thank you for that.
Tiffany, this is your
Wow.
moment. I mean, you
I'm
do.
like, so many offerings coming out of my eyes.
Just want to hug you, Tiffany. It's so great. Thank you for
Just
bringing tears into the room.
right. It's okay to have tears.
Okay.
Let them fly. Like, honestly, I
Okay.
teach at a university. I'm like, my students have all seen me cry. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But thinking about all of the supports, right? I try not to take it for granted, because I know not everybody has this, right? That there are a lot of people out there navigating this disease without supports. And I feel super fortunate that, like, again, I have incredible partner and family and friends and everything. And then it only grew when I started to connect with OCC, right? Those supports. Like I said, the TLTs and being part of, like, the Patient Partners and Research Program and these new memories that I'm creating with these groups of people, which are just so amazing. I think about, these folks I met online, because a lot of these programs, it's virtual, right? We're meeting virtually for TLTs, and um, but I'm kind of the person too that I'll tend to like I gather people sometimes and make things happen. And I've met a lot of the Teal sisters face to face. I was gonna try to load up a photo for this session today, and I just kind of lost track of time. But I've been out in Vancouver many times and met with a couple of the Teal sisters from our young TLT group, and we've gone and had delicious food together and cried together and laughed together. The only hard thing is that sometimes you lose these friends. And that's part of, now I go to Vancouver and there's only 2 of us instead of 3, and that also keeps me going, and it also keeps me wanting to speak up and to advocate. I feel very strongly that, especially for um in my experience and being quite young, that we shouldn't be losing these women so young. And it's hard trying to make these connections with folks and then seeing these things happen. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. But yeah, I've been able to meet these folks in Vancouver. We've had great times together, and I actually get to see one of my Teal sisters this coming weekend at the Canadian Cancer Research Conference, which I'm so excited about. And I've met another friend in Winnipeg last summer. We had a great visit together with our partners and at the Forks, and been out to Toronto and met with Genevieve and in person, which was really cool. And we have a WhatsApp group with another group like from our TLTs, and just all of these beautiful connections. And even just one funny story is I was in Victoria in August, walking down Government Street at like 10 p.m. and I saw this woman sitting on a bench, and I took a look, and then I kept walking. I'm like, that looked like Shannon. I'm like, that's weird. And then I look again and she's like, Tiffany? I was like, Shannon, this is Shannon, who you've seen today already from the Patient Partner and
Yeah.
Research Group. And so we got to like give each other a big hug and see each other in Victoria unexpectedly, right? So you'll run into Teal sisters and all sorts of places. And it's just been such a beautiful addition to my life, right? To meet such strong and determined and just incredible people. And yeah, I think I could go on and on about this, of how great I think everybody is, and how lucky I am to have contact with such beautiful people. And like I said, my OCC circle and all my other communities I'm a part of, and that it brings so much strength and brings so much hope and so much like reason to just keep on going, and making change as best as I can. So yeah.
For that, Tiffany. We are so grateful to all of you. I mean, you are what allows us to do what we can to create community, but ultimately it comes down to everyone in this community, and the way that you are so generous with your time and sharing your experience and all of those things is just so incredible, including nights just like tonight. So with that, there's Steph. I think we're ready to do some questions and answers, perhaps.
Yeah, we have a couple questions. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing and being raw and vulnerable and sharing your experiences and your stories with everyone on the call. Don't leave right after. I want you to go through and look at the chat, because there's some beautiful and amazing messages in there for all of you. Tanya, thanks for guiding us through this beautiful session. I have a couple questions I want to ask that came up. So this is an interesting question, and as a facilitator of the TLT, it's sometimes it is sometimes hard to manage. So this person was able to come to a TLT and is looking for advice, I guess, on how to manage a situation where everybody else seemed to be doing really well and she wasn't. And it was hard for her to be on that situation. And it's not that she wasn't happy for the people that were doing well. It was just challenging for her. So any advice you guys can give? I think some of you have probably been in that same situation. Would anyone like to share?
I'll go.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think I think the thing to remember, especially in the TLTs, is that whatever you show up with, everyone's going to will identify with, because they will have been in that place at some point, in where they're going, or where they've been, or if they're right at the very beginning, then you're sharing what you don't know and having the wisdom around you to help you unfold or uncover some of the things you that could be helpful to your journey, is important. So I guess the one thing, if you're feeling that hesitancy, it's the same kind of hesitancy I think Nancy identified, where she's feeling nervous to speak her truth to power. It's like that moment where you can just be honest and just speak just from here, and the group there just listens so carefully, and of course you'll have Stephanie and Marianne there to help with it too, and I have just been so touched by that experience, and encourage you to just open your mouth and let it come out, and be open. Yeah.
Thanks, Liz. Tiff?
And I was just going to add to that, I saw that question, and, it was the TLT that I've been going to for a while, with the young group. And I think it sometimes depends on the month too, of where the conversation goes, and if who's there and how many of us there are in the group. And I would just, keep, try again. And sometimes it is a session where it's a bit more positive, and sometimes, like, I think probably the first year I went to TLTs, I just cried every time. Like, that was just what I did. And now I have different things to share, even even though I'm in a different situation than I was then, right? But yeah, it varies, and I think that's okay depending on things. But like Liz said, like, if you need to share something that's a little bit different than what's going on in that space that day, you are going to be embraced by everybody there, and it will be it should feel supportive. And if it doesn't, then we've got a problem. But I feel like I've never really seen that happen where it hasn't been. So
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Everyone be embraced. That's a great way to put it.
Thank you. Thanks, Tiff. And I know from being on there as well, I feel the same way. Sometimes they're challenging and sometimes they are a little more positive. And knowing that when you come on, people will meet you where you're at that particular day. So I hope the person that asked the question is able to come on to the next one. I have another question. Sorry, Nancy, did you want to
I
add
just
in?
wanted to add something very quickly, just that there's no wrong way to come onto these things. There's no wrong way to show up.
Yeah.
And I think we just have to remember that every person on that is scared shitless. Pardon me. But like, we're all afraid. And if you're not, you're just in denial. So and people act in different ways when they're afraid. So, bless those people who have to be in a way that seems abrasive to us or downer or whatever. They're just doing the best they can, just like we are. I think that's important. Remember.
Great perspective. Thanks, Nancy. Another question here I'm going to get to. So this person is very inspired by all of you as a panelists. Just came out of frontline treatment, and her fear of recurrence is so high. She's a mom with 2 young kids. And all of you tonight, through sharing your stories, have given her hope. But how do you manage your own fears when you're living with this cancer, knowing the statistics and what they are? Anybody want to take a stab at that one? First of all, I will just say you are not a statistic, and we've heard that through several sessions tonight. You are not defined by your disease.
Yeah,
Liz, did you want to
I ran into my first really intense set of recurrence exactly in that time, right after I'd finished my treatment, heading into COVID. Wellspring ran a recurrence workshop, and it was really good. And I think they're developing a good like full 6-week recurrence treatment program. Anyway, just to go quickly forward, the thing that I took away from that workshop was to reframe. So it's not about the disease coming back and the fear of going into your screening appointments and the 3-month follow-ups and all of that. It was like going to prove that it was still not there, and it was a little flip in my head, but it was more of a stepping into it and recognizing that the longer I was out, further out, the more I had the confidence to recognize that I could keep living, and living every day and worrying about that recurrence, it can take its toll on you. So focusing on those kids, focusing on the things that bring you joy and love and fun, getting back to that sense of normal, getting that normal life back, whatever the little things I could do to make that happen. Every time there was a bit more normal back in my life, I was happier. And it wasn't about a lot of extra things. It was about, the way I ate my eggs in the morning, or just the little stuff that just made my life feel like it was back. And I think that it takes a while to get there. It took me almost a whole year after my treatment to feel the energy and the strength for my workouts and all that stuff. But I did it, and I think it made a really big difference for me.
I can't pretend to know what it's like to have little kids and go through this. I really hand it to you, that you have the courage to even talk about it. Um, I do know that for me, I've been afraid all the way along. I mean, at some point, I just stopped being afraid, and then I had the recurrence. So, I couldn't. I I don't know how to actually make that not happen. But I do know that what has helped me is reading stories about women who have survived many times. Hearing multiple recurrences and people living 10, 20, 15, like the woman who was on the with the research tonight. I mean, my God, I heard, oh, 9 years. Oh, sheesh. Like, so, and I read one of the first people I heard about was somebody who told me they knew an aunt who was 80. She had ovarian cancer 3 times and lived to be in her 80s. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be her. Now, just even if I could think that for a few minutes, it helped go to sleep again at night. Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy.
And I'll
Tiff?
just ditto all of that, right? I mean, it's real. We do get afraid. We have bad days. We have many good days though, right? And like Liz was saying, it's to focus on those good things, those things you get excited about, those things that bring us joy. Um, and keep going forward with that. Because I've been living with recurrence now for like 3.5 years. I'm excited for the day when I can be NED, and we'll celebrate that, and hopefully that'll be coming very soon.
It's strange when you think that chronic disease is a good thing, to live with it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
yeah, we just have to see what's good about wherever we are. It's promising. Yeah.
Well, thank you all again for sharing and being open and honest and emotional with us tonight. I see in the chat too that there's some other young moms in the chat who would be really happy to connect on Ov Dialogue, and they've put their usernames in there on Ov Dialogue. So get on there and connect. Meet us at our next TLT. We'll have a chat. I think it's on November the 26th. I just wanted to close this session off by just reading a couple of the comments from the chat. So we've got in here such powerful role models to everyone else who's on the call. This community has been such a blessing on this journey. Tiffany, I so appreciate your raw emotions. Everybody on the call feels it and holds space for each other. You all are beautiful souls. I'm so inspired by all of the panelists. Thank you, 3, for your openness and your honesty about your journeys. So everything is said. Like I said, stay on at the end if you can and go through that chat, please. There's some awesome comments, and you've made a real difference to all of the people on the call tonight by being here and by sharing your experiences with everyone. So that was a very powerful way for us to end our 2025 National Symposium. Thank you all, Nancy, Liz, Tiff, for sharing your experiences tonight. Your stories remind us and go back to the connection and the power of community. Ovarian cancer, we know that it touches every part of our life, but it doesn't have to define us. Each one of you on the call tonight has the power to find the hope and the strength and the purpose to lift up others along the way, and together we are stronger.